Well, I don't know how to use this, and I'm having a lot of problems with YouTube. What I wanted to get into with everybody, if I can upload this video really fast, is I know that the subject that I picked was controversial, but I have to say to you that the Bible and telling the truth is so important to me, or telling what I believe is so important to me that whether men like what I say or not doesn't matter to me. I don't want to lose friends, but the problem is that I'm bound by what I see what the Bible says, and not being afraid of men. So this is the reason why I do the things I do. I do them out of passion for, what I read in the scriptures, and I know a lot of people are passionate also. So I wanted to make a quick video because nothing is loading here and it's driving me up the wall. But as far as the nature of God is concerned, and Calvinism supposedly impugning God's nature. Now, I never read John Calvin, I read Paul. So let's get Calvinism and Arminianism off the table to begin with. What I read in Romans chapter 9, in the beginning of the verse, or in the beginning of Romans chapter 9, is that not all Israel is Israel, but those called according to the promise are Israel. And when you read down, it says, even us of the Gentiles. Now, in between those verses, not all Israel is Israel, but those who are of the promise, those those of the Gentiles are actually part of Israel. There's a lot of stuff in there, and one statement in there says that the gospel is an offense, and that's the end of Romans chapter 9. It says that the stone the builders rejected is the head of the cornerstone, a stone that makes men stumble, but it says a stone of offense, that this gospel is offensive to people. And if I'm going to preach the gospel, then it comes with the territory that it's going to be offensive. So now looking what's in between in Romans chapter 9, since Romans chapter 9 has to do not with just Israel, but the Israel that's chosen by the promise, the Israel that comes by faith, that Israel. That is what Romans 9 is all about. Now when we look at this idea of two children being born, and the two children not being born yet, nor having done any good or evil. This is Romans chapter 9, in order that God's purpose according to election should stand. In other words, to God's choosing and not man's choosing. Now, why is this important? It's because if we could do some sort of good work to buy our salvation, just as Jacob and Esau sold his birthright, and Jacob basically deceived Esau. But you see, Esau sold his birthright. But you see, when it says in Romans chapter 9, not having done any, that they were chosen in the womb before they were born, not having done any good or evil yet, it wasn't saying that God looked into the future and saw that Esau was going to sell his birthright. Basically, it was saying that God chose them not on that basis, but on the basis of his choice and his will. So, and then it says very clearly that it does not depend on man's will, but on God's mercy. Now, this is an offense. And it says, you will say that God is unrighteous. And indeed, you said that this goes against the very nature of God. But the fact is that that it is written right there by Paul in Romans that it is God's nature to choose whom he chooses. For he says to Moses, I will have mercy on whom I have mercy, and compassion upon whom I have compassion. And that the Jews had rejected Messiah, and that the Gentiles were coming to him. But not all Israel was Israel, and not all Gentiles is of Israel either, but those who are according to the promise. This is clearly what Romans 9 teaches. For if it had been by works that Esau had done, then it would not have said that God had chose them when they were in the womb, before they did any good or evil. Thank you very much.